U.S. tariff refund system goes live after Supreme Court ruling. Ooh. Are they paying back the tariffs? Like, I was under the impression that was not going to happen. I mean, Trump was the one giving that impression, but still. I didn't think they were paying them back. Refund systems set up to allow companies to recover illegally collected tariffs from the US government went live as thousands of companies rushed to file claims. More than 330,000 paid up to 166 billion in tariffs on 53 million shipments of imported goods. The US Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariff import under IEEPA in February 6-3 ruling, handing the president a stinging defeat. The Trump administration responded by imposing a 10% global tariff under a different legal authority. Several U.S. states and small businesses are now challenging in separate federal courts. This ongoing legal battle over presidential tariff authority will shape U.S. trade policy for years. So, he set tariffs, they collected tariffs, the tariffs were shut down, he created new tariffs, collecting tariffs. That first chunk, he has to pay back. I mean, wouldn't you just roll that into your new tariffs? Like, maybe he can't. Like, maybe that's not part of his legal authority. So they got to pay back 166 billion. This one's a good link. No, having any. I don't like going to these sites. I assume this is posted on YouTube. Clearly, I got to fight with the Claude a little more. 2 minutes.
In April 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump announced tariffs on nearly every country in the world. 1 year later, the Supreme Court ruled most of those tariffs illegal. Still, in that time, American households paid $1,500 more for the same groceries, clothes, and cars.
Yeah, like, you hear about the companies getting rebates, right? But the companies simply pass the expense onto the customer. So, isn't the customer the one that should be getting the rebate? The reimbursement? Something tells me they're not going to pass it on.
Here's how a year of tariffs cost Americans more than they saved. By the end of 2025, Trump had slapped tariffs on more than 90 countries, including Canada, Mexico, China, the EU, and India. The reason...
Didn't he just slap a wide tariff too on everyone? Like 10% flat?
ranged from trade deficits to fentanyl trafficking or an ally prosecuting a politician he liked. Tariffs went from trade policy to diplomatic leverage. And so the average U.S. tariff jumped from 2.6% to 13%. The government collected $264 billion in tariff revenue. That money, paid by
$264 billion, but they got to pay back $166 billion?
by American businesses at the border, went to the federal budget. When an American store buys a $100 jacket from Vietnam, Trump puts a 25% tariff on it. The jacket now costs $125 at the border. The Vietnamese factory doesn't pay the extra $25. The American store does. Then the American shopper. In February 2026, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that American firms and consumers paid 90% of all tariff costs. Coffee rose 34%, shoes 39%, A new car costs an extra.
Wait. Let me hear this part again.
The Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that American firms and consumers paid 90%.
Firms and consumer. Okay, so that's not a
Of
pass
all
on.
tariff costs.
I wanna know how
Coffee
much they
rose
passed on.
34%, shoes 39%. A new car costs an extra $6,000 on average. The total hit $1,500 more per household in 2026. That's $300 more than Trump's own tax cut the year before. The tariffs wiped out the tax break, and they hit the poorest hardest. The bottom 10% of households paid 3 times more as a share of income than the top 10%. Meanwhile, the rest of the world responded. China, hit with tariffs of up to 145%, cut off U.S. access to rare earth minerals. It controls 90% of the world's processed supply. The U.S. negotiated. When Trump threatened NATO allies over Greenland, the EU had a retaliatory package worth $107 billion in American goods. Trump reversed course. BRICS nations started coordinating trade defenses collectively. Then Trump's weapon was withdrawn. In February 2026, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that he never had the legal authority to impose most of his tariffs. The U.S. government now owes an estimated $175 billion.
Okay, so that's similar to the number we were seeing, 66.
Dollars in refunds to importers. That's money it has already spent. Trump promised tariffs would transfer wealth from the rest of the world to the U.S. He built a toll booth on the U.S.
Like that's definitely a bad look. If you set up tariffs, your tariffs get shut down. Are we just supposed to trust that the next set of tariffs don't get shut down? Like, didn't he use shakier ground to set up the next whole set of tariffs? If it's gonna get shut down like this, why are you doing it? It's so destabilizing. So much of finance works on stability.
Border and told Americans that the world would pay the toll. But 9 out of every $10 were taken out of American wallets.
Yeah. I assume
Wednesday morning.
that if his first set of tariffs got shut down and he has to repay it, then the second set of tariffs will also get knocked down in courts. He'll have to repay that. Like, let's try Jim. So Trump's first set of tariffs were shut down by the Supreme Court. And then he created new tariffs. What are the odds these ones get shut down by the Supreme Court as well? Are these on a better legal standing? Are these tariffs? You got thinking up. Tariff system. But okay, 2 in the US. That's short answer is yes, they are on better legal standing. Okay. They are still on very thin ice. Legal battle over the new tariffs is essentially a round 2 after the Supreme Court's major 6-3 decision in February. Here's a breakdown of why the first set failed and how new ones differ. I'm not going to go into this too much. Is there a summary? The verdict. The new tariffs are smarter from a legal drafting perspective because they use the correct vocabulary. However, the same 6-3 majority that struck down the first set remains highly skeptical of any presidential unilateral taxing the economy. Many legal experts believe the Supreme Court may eventually rule that even Section 122 requires more specific instructions from Congress than what currently exists. Does this shift to more sector specific time limited tariffs change? Oh, okay. So they learned from the first one and they're coming back for round 2. They were decidedly defeated 6-3 at the first round. And it's probably gonna take a time. We're gonna see what the new round does. Okay, let's go to the second one. Doge's access to Social Security data unblocked. Amid whistleblower alarm. A federal appeals court vacated a court order limiting Doge's access to sensitive Social Security Administration data, handling the Trump administration a victory. Majority call recent revelations about an ex-Doge associate allegedly planning to take sensitive citizen data to a private government contractor even more alarming. Doge has shifted focus to data collection and exfiltration of sensitive information from government agencies to private databases. Whistleblowers allege an attempt to build a master database on American citizens, prompting 14 lawsuits citing the Privacy Act of 1970. The long-term implications for American privacy and the limits of executive power are profound. If you think they're just doing this for American data, you're wrong. There's no way they're not trying to collect everyone. Now, they definitely have more Americans' data because they have access to Social Security, the Social Security data. But the whole private databases is what's concerning. Like, having the government have this data is one thing. Transferring this data from the government to places that will try to profit off of it is very concerning. I mean, I don't know how to stop that. It looks like Doge has got more access now. I'm gonna have to tell it to give me videos. So that's slightly concerning. Okay. Continue. Global. Oh, there was something else I wanted to get into. Isn't there like I hear that I think it's California was passing a law limiting reporting. I hear that California is trying to pass a law that limits reporting in certain sections. Can you tell me more information about this? Let's see. Like reporting on like certain groups of people or something. I don't know. I heard it passing on the news somewhere. See what we got. The law you're likely hearing about is a majority point of contention in California right now. specifically regarding Assembly Bill 1955, the Safety Act, and a few other sector-specific reporting exemptions taking effect in 2026. There are three main sections where reporting is being limited or exempted, each sparking its own legal battle. Education, parental notification. This is the most high-profile limit on reporting. The law, which became effective in 2025 but faced major court rulings in 2026, prohibits school districts from requiring teachers or staff to notify parents the student identifies as transgender or different pronouns. What? Okay, let's try this again. This is the most high-profile limit on reporting. The law, which became effective but faced major court rulings, prohibit school districts from requiring teachers or staff to notify parents the student identifies as transgender or uses different pronouns. So, if a student comes out as transgender to a teacher, they are now prohibited. Okay, prohibited school districts from requiring teachers. So the teacher is no longer required to tell the parent. There were laws that forced teachers to tell parents if the child identifies as transgender. This law prohibits those laws from forcing a teacher to tell the parent. Like, I feel if your kid comes out as transgender, wouldn't they talk to the parent? Am I missing something here? Like, why would you go to a teacher first? Limit. It effectively bans forced outing policies. Schools cannot mandate that staff report students' gender identity change to their family without this consent. Current status, a federal judge. This is not what I heard of, but this is interesting. Current status, a federal judge issued an injunction in late ruling that parents have a constitutional right to know this information. Oh, this has created a legal limbo where the state law exists, but some courts are blocking its enforcement. Oh, like, that's tough. I feel like if a child comes out as transgender or uses different pronouns, like, wouldn't they do this with the parents, people they're closest with first? If they don't, and they choose to do this at school, like, I feel that's something parents should know. Like, should be required. I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, clearly it's tough. They're having a massive court battle about it. they can't figure it out either, how it's supposed to go. Like, if I was a parent, I feel I'd like to know personally. But Like, what age group is this? Prohibit school district. So could this be like high school or like primary school? That like if younger, like definitely would want to know. But once kids like start getting into high school, a certain degree of autonomy away from their parents is kind of expected. Well, I mean they're gonna hash that out. Switch. Notification. In the education parental notification section, does this include public schools, high school? How does this work? So this is high schools as well. Elementary and middle schools, the law designed specifically to create a statewide standard for all K-12 public and charter schools. Break down how public schools basically read that up. Oh. Of course, there's no easy answers for any of this, is there? I personally would like to know, maybe once they're in high school, they're allowed to to know these, to like do this and not be informed, but such a thin line. All right, let's move on. I want to keep track of that. The safety. Safety. Here in the category, I'm definitely going to get through it some 100%. Okay, number 2, environmental groundwater reporting. Okay, this is not what I was. Infrastructure and environmental section was amended to streamline water projects. No. I've thought of what I was thinking of. I heard about the Nick Shirley Act. Can you explain this to me? Like, they were trying to target this kind, like Nick Shirley does a certain type of reporting, and they were trying to target it. The Nick Shirley Act is the nickname given to California. Okay, here we go. So this bill is not what we were listening to, not what we were learning about. It was introduced in early 2024, gained significant national-wide attention in April 2026 as it advanced through the California state legislature. Okay, it is named after Nick Shirley, a conservative YouTuber and citizen journalist who viral investigation videos, particularly those alleging mass fraud and taxpayer-funded child care programs, became the catalyst for this legislation. What the bill does. Officially, the bill is intended to protect people who provide immigration support services, such as legal aid, houses, and social services. On reporting, I mean, like, limit on reporting is never a good thing. It makes it illegal to post personal identification information. Isn't that doxing? Isn't that already crime? From my understanding. Okay, such as names, home addresses, as or direct work locations, services providers, if the intent is to harass or incite violence against them. Nothing that I saw from Nick Shirley indicated he was trying to harass or incite violence. Now, those that he recorded might have been harassed, but that was not the intentions of his reporting. Takedown power, it allows individuals or organizations to demand the removal of video recordings or that contain if footage was filmed in a public place. Violations can result in steep fines. Basically, like personal identifying information. Controversy. Two perspectives. The debate over this bill is a clash between privacy/safety and free speech/transparency. Supporters argue the law is a necessary response to doxing, the claim that independent influencers are targeting low-level employees at NGOs, showing their faces and location to millions of viewers, which has led to death threats and harassment. They argue that sharing the name of a front desk worker intimidated them as a journalist. Like, I largely agree with that. Like, if you're showing like the first name, sharing the name of a front desk worker at like a doctor's or a dentist, I would absolutely agree that we should not do that. If you're investigating fraudulent allegations and where you suspect fraud and you go there and there's a front desk worker at a fraud agency, like, I don't care so much. If they're working at somewhere that is highly suspected of fraud, like allowing privacy unless you know, it's hard. But like some of the stuff I seen, it was pretty obvious. When there's 40 of the same type of company in this little building, all doing the same thing, pretty clear fraud there. Like they were like hospice companies, 40 of them in like one building. Hospice companies, like, don't you need a residency for that? Like, care of people? I'm kind of split on it because you should be allowed to report on this stuff. Absolutely. Being forced to take certain steps to protect like names and faces, maybe that's a nice middle ground, forcing them not to share names or faces of these individuals. Because like you can never know for sure until there's a real investigation. My understanding is they're doing a real investigation and they're finding real fraud. That's tough. Because I absolutely think this sort of like the work that Nick Shirley does should be allowed if there are certain limitations on showing names and faces. Like, I'd say that's fine, as long as it's not being used to take down reporting on fraud. So that would have to be crafted very, very finely. It's a difficult line to walk. The critics have dubbed it as the the Stop Nick Shirley Act because they believe it is specifically designed to stop people from filming the truth. They argue that if an organization is receiving millions in taxpayer dollars, the public has a right to see who is running it and how the money is being spent. Okay, I largely agree with that. They fear the law will be used as a shield to hide fraud, allowing NGOs to sue anyone who films their operations under the guise of harassment. Okay, so I'm starting to really side more with the critics' view. I don't think they'll be able to do this in a way that can protect like individuals without destroying this type of reporting. I think this type of reporting is important. Oh, I'm definitely more in the critics camp. Here, as of April 2026, AB 2624 has passed through the Assembly's Public Safety Committee and is heading for a full floor vote. If it passed, it will likely face the First Amendment challenges in court almost immediately. Interesting. California. Again, in California. I mean, I hope this doesn't pass. I very much agree with this statement. If you are receiving millions in taxpayers' dollars, the public has a right to see who is running it and how the money is spent. That's just reporting.